sort of like therapy. You can lay out on the couch if you want.
I'm happy to.
We'll talk.
Yeah, let's do
Have a
it.
good conversation. All right. Before we jump in, I want to hear the story about how you got the Instagram handle, Teach Me How to Dougie.
Well, teach me how to Douglas. So my last name is Douglas. And it sounds like people know the song, Teach Me How to Dougie. And she had the Instagram account, and then one day decided she didn't want to be on Instagram anymore and closed the account, and I swooped in.
So you stole your daughter's Instagram.
Stole my daughter's Instagram.
All right.
I offered her money after. She's like, nah, I don't want it anymore.
How did you get a daughter who doesn't want your money? All right. So let's jump into our conversation. The TV format has long been an effective channel for people to tell stories and for brands to tell stories. But in today's post-digital world, traditional TV lacks measurement and targeting capabilities. How does connected TV offer a solution?
Okay. So I think the first thing to understand is before connected TV, obviously we had linear television, cable television. And the way that was commonly measured was spike measurement. You basically have a broadcast time, and then you measure how many people visit your website or your mobile app after the commercial airs. So that's literally not possible on connected TV. It's not the greatest way to measure. It was the only thing available to linear. But on linear, there's no airtime. Everyone's watching a different show at a different time. You have two people in the same household watching the same show, but watching it streamed slightly differently. So there's no airtime. There's no availability. So if you advertise on television, on streaming television, and you don't do digital measurement, it's kind of like almost burning dollars. There's just no data available whatsoever other than how many impressions you serve. So in digital, what you have now in the streaming, it's a true digital channel. And so the thing I think people have to get over is there's no clicks. But if you look at Google, you look at Meta, like I believe the estimates are 70-80% of measurement on Meta is actually not click-based. It's view-based, meaning you saw the ad on one device, and if you purchase on another or visit that brand on another, then Meta tracks that because they have logins. Google, I think a lot of people don't know Google does the same with search. If you click on one device but buy on another, they do the same. In TV, you have now initiatives like what Trade Desk has done with the ID system that they have, which is login based. You also have, with Mountain, we leverage technologies like that and partnerships. We do a lot of household IP-based measurement, where if we stream the ad on one device and then you go to the brand on another and eventually convert, we can measure that. It's basically cross-device measurement, where your television is one of the devices in that cross-device map. So all of that's now possible. It's really the only true way to measure on streaming. I think it's very effective, and it puts TV at a level with search, with social, in terms of what you can do to measure your spend.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So if I'm watching a show, I see the ad, I buy it on my phone, you're tracking that.
Yeah, exactly. So the TV is always the first device. And when I say CTV, I mean watching television. I'm not talking about like web video ads. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're watching Bravo, you're watching Discovery or whatever, ESPN, and ads stream during that, and then you pull out your phone, tablet, computer, and you go visit the brand. Those get connected through shared logins or through shared household IP, and all of our customers are leveraging that in order to measure.
All right, so CTV turns television into a measurable, targetable performance marketing channel. Yeah. There's a mouthful to say. What are some success stories of brands who have used it to enhance their performance marketing strategies?
Yeah, so we see a lot of emerging brands. So it's all size brands. It's mid-size to larger. We're starting to see a lot of smaller brands. I think the way I'll answer that question is typically how it goes is that the brand starts with a test budget, mm-hmm. and what they're measuring. So generally, what we see is most brands are maxed out on their spend on paid search. They're maxed out on paid social, meaning they're at the top of the curve for return on ad spend. More dollars start to decrease the return. They're looking for another big scalable channel. One thing to keep in mind, I think that sometimes people forget, is there are more people watching television than using social. So I would venture to say virtually everyone in this room, watches TV probably every day, and lots of people are not active at all on social or barely active. So it has more users than social and 3 times the engagement. The average social users on a social app or social apps 59 minutes a day. They're watching television 3 hours a day. So it's a very attractive channel to reach more people, reach them with a message that really sticks and with the credibility of the channel. And so in terms of these emerging brands, they start with a test budget. They're trying to hit the same return on ad spend goals that they might have on search and social. And then as they see that return, they'll just keep increasing their spend. So we typically see brands go from 40,000, 30,000 a month, maybe somewhere in that range as high as we had brands start $1 million a month. We've had brands start $10,000 a month in spend, and then they're typically doubling, tripling that spend over a 3-month period, based on the results that they're getting.
So let's talk a little bit about paid search and paid social, because obviously they also deliver ads to our audiences via targeting, all of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Why is TV advertising still so vital for brands? Like, how does it fit within the marketing plan, and is it competing or complementary to these channels?
Yeah, so I think the first part is what I said about it's actually the biggest channel. And so it's just very hard to ignore. The credibility from it is important. Another thing is completely brand safe. There's very little user-generated content on television. And the user-generated content you do see is like Roku long-tail channels that is kind of like web video put on Roku. And a lot of brands treat that part of Roku separately and make an explicit decision as to whether they want to use that or not. So it's a very credible medium. It has the biggest audience. It's a very powerful medium. There's a halo effect to the credibility of your brand. And then now that it's measurable, that kind of brings it home. The key thing is all of the brands. So Mountain, our platform is what we call a performance TV platform. I think we essentially created the category to take television and bring it to the level of search and social in terms of measurability, targetability, stuff like that. And so when you add all those other qualities, especially for emerging brands where credibility that is kind of very important, I think there's still this effect on people that if your brand they're seeing it on a big screen in their home, that really lends a lot of credibility. And we see that reflected in the performance numbers typically that companies get out in the medium. And so the performance is typically on a level of non-branded search or just straight up social in terms of the return on ad spend, cost per acquisition, the kind of targets that most direct response marketers are focused on.
So let's dig in actually to these smaller, more growth-oriented brands that they might not have historically played in television traditionally, but now are obviously jumping in with connected TV.
Yeah.
How are you seeing these smaller brands play with the platform, and what can larger brands learn from what these smaller brands are doing?
Yeah. So when we launched our Mountain Performance TV platform in 2018, it was actually mainly mid-sized brands and larger because I think they had the test budgets. And generally, kind of were looking for a new channel. We're starting to see a lot of smaller brands. Actually, I had a friend text me the other day who's in the real estate industry, and she's at a real estate conference this week, and she said all of the marketing is discussing connected TV for like renting apartments in new buildings. And so I think you're seeing it as brands are starting to realize, wait, I can access television as an advertising medium, and I don't need like an 18-wheeler truck and $500,000 to film the ads, and I get actual data back in terms of how effective it is. You're seeing, I think, a lot of smaller brands jump in. Also, to make this work as an advertising channel, direct response channel takes a ton of technology, and so Mountain is now 4.5 years in terms of technology investment to like really make this perform, even for the long tail of the market. So I think a lot of those smaller companies are jumping in now.
And so my last question is to make this really like actionable for everyone in the audience is how, for a brand that doesn't currently have performance marketing tied to connected TV, how should they be thinking about diving into this channel, and what are some things that they should do to make it successful when they start?
Yeah, so I think one thing that's interesting for Mountain's customer base, 3/4 of our customers have never advertised on TV before. And this includes, like I said, small, mid-size, and large brands, even some of the largest brands. Like it doesn't really matter the size. What matters is kind of the mission. So if their goal, if the marketing team's goal is reach and frequency, that's traditional brand advertising. That's kind of a different effort. I like to say that most advertisers actually don't want to buy ads. They want to buy traffic to their brands. So like no one goes to Google to buy an ad. They go to Google to get access to traffic that's potentially going to make people aware of the product and hopefully buy. And so the traditional television advertising market is about selling ads. The conversations that I think you're increasingly seeing happening around streaming because of like what we're doing and others is the marketer is not having a conversation about ads. They're having a conversation of how can I leverage the medium in order to get more people to see my brand and to discover my brand. So in that sense, it's a lot like social, which is kind of a discovery channel, as a product discovery channel as opposed to paid search, which is what you're looking for. And so that's the target company, direct-to-consumer brands. We have like United Airlines as a customer, and I think people think of United as like, that's a big brand advertiser. They are selling airline tickets and they're selling them online. And so if they can like now measure how many tickets they're selling, gets a spend, that they're a direct response market. And again, they don't want to buy the ads, they want to buy the traffic and they want to sell the tickets. So that's the first point. And then the rest of it is what we talked about earlier. Start with a test budget. You don't need a huge budget. The biggest obstacle is always for a smaller emerging brand is they literally don't have TV ads. But they generally have a lot of video. And so we have a company we bought called Quick Frame. We acquired Maximum Effort, which is Ryan Reynolds' creative agency, and Ryan joined the company as our chief creative officer. And so between those two, Quick Frame like connects you with creators. They don't create the ads, but they connect you with creators at relative low cost. And often those creators are not doing video production. They're doing video editing on all the assets that brand has, and can turn like a good library of web video and maybe some stock video, and soon maybe some generative video with generative AI and things like that. And they can turn that into a 15-second, 30-second ad. And the brand can get started at like small budget, small creative budget, small marketing budget. We work with a lot of agencies. They don't need it. So also, ironically, about 60, maybe even 75% of our customers don't have an agency involved. So I think we were the first platform in the history of television where before Mountain launched our platform, I think all television advertisers sold through an agency.
Yeah.
But we work with every TV network, literally every TV network in America, and we have a lot of relationship with agencies too. But for emerging brand, they don't need any of that. They just like basically need the desire to try the channel, just like they at one point probably did, with search, social, and other channels too.
Amazing. Well, Mark, we are just about out of time, so thank you so much for this conversation.
Just quick.
And thank you again for supporting The Brief.
Thank you. Pleasure.